Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show we break down the latest and greatest Premier League action. Now we've already chalked off our winners, that was Arsenal. Go and watch the clip if you haven't already. We're here to break down Manchester United as our losers this week. Joseph, before we get into individual performances, how did you feel about the team performance?
I was very happy. I think it's harsh to have Manchester United as the losers because I actually think they played pretty well across the course of the game and were just beaten by the best team in England right now. I do think there was some problems individually that we're going to come on to talk about, and obviously missing Casemiro was an absolute disaster as it played out because Arsenal, especially in the second half, really sliced through Manchester United. But I think this is very clearly a case of a team that's 3 years into development in the form of Arsenal and playing brilliantly, and a team that's 6 months into development in the form of Manchester United. I thought United were resilient. I think they defended really well, particularly Varane and Rafa Varane and Alessandro Martinez. And I think United are going to get better. There was definite signs of, certain little passing patterns, certain little counter-attacking movements, defensive structure there that I was pretty happy with. I just don't think we had the quality really to stay with Arsenal in the second half, and eventually they battered the door down after 30 minutes of constant pressure. Yeah,
and the domino effect, like you said, of not having Casemiro in the side meant that Christian Eriksen wasn't as effective, Bruno Fernandes wasn't as effective.
We weren't miles off it though.
And the centre halves didn't trust McTominay anywhere near to the same extent as they do with Casemiro in terms of playing it out from the back, giving it balls into midfield under pressure. On that subject, let's move on to a couple of individual performances then, and we are going to start in the midfield with Scott McTominay because the game sort of passed him by to an extent, and I don't want to be too critical because obviously had big shoes to fill with Casemiro out, like we've already established.
He's our best player.
And he actually was pretty useful in both boxes. Let's start with some positives. 3 out of 4 tackles won, 9 clearances, 5 of them headed, 2 out of 2 aerial duels won, but only 20 out of 27 accurate passes. That was less than Anthony, who came off after 70 minutes. 11 of the 27 passes that he attempted were backwards. Lost possession twice in his own half, which is more than any other United player. Didn't really make any final third entries, or I think he only made 3. Thomas Partey, by comparison, made 9, so wasn't really progressing the ball up the pitch to any great extent. What was your feeling while watching him? Was it one of, a bit of sympathy?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, because I think people are putting expectations of Casemiro level performances against him, and Casemiro is Man United's best player. And I also don't actually think this is McTominay's best role, playing this defensive midfield role. I actually think he's a little bit better going forward than he is going backwards. I think he can offer more as a driving midfielder than a sitting 6. And I think that showed at times as well. I think some of his best work actually came, when he came into that shot late, arrived late, moments like that, I think is where he is quite good. But Scott McTominay is a squad player for Manchester United. He's not Manchester United's go-to defensive midfielder, and it wouldn't be a massive surprise to me in the summer if he was sold and a club came in with a decent bid like in Newcastle, who are looking for somebody who is an upgrade on a player like Sean Longstaff. I think that Scott McTominay could do a really good job there. I think the issue is that Erik ten Hag has a very intricate system. The 6 in that has to be a really dominant player to allow Christian Eriksen to play almost as a floating 8 / backwards 10. I think that it's a very difficult position to play, and he tried his best in there. I just don't think he's quite got that level, and that's no disrespect to Scott McTominay because I love the guy. I just think that people comparing him to Casemiro yesterday, it's nearly the impossible task. Expecting that sort of output. It's very, very difficult for him, and I think that we all know that Scott McTominay is more of a squad player than a starter for Manchester United.
I think it'd be an interesting option for a mid-table side that play a back 3. He plays on the right for Scotland sometimes in that system and is quite confident dropping into the final sort of line of defence, right, and distributing it from deep, but not so much driving into midfield and making those cute passes.
I almost think he's better in that 10 area where he can really drive into the box and arrive late. Honestly, I think he's.
If I ever see Scott McTominay as a 10, mate, I'll doff my cap.
I'm not actually as a 10, but like in that 10 space where the 8 arrives late.
He's threatening. He's made the
Joe Linton role.
Yeah, he's picked up a strange habit of like getting off shots in good areas right throughout his career.
Well, he's a striker all the way through the academy. He was a striker, and then he grew 6 inches in a year and got moved back into midfield, didn't he? So I think he does have the slightly more attacking instincts than the defensive instincts, and I think that does show when you try and play him as a 6, because he's just not a sitter. He doesn't just sit there and allow people to flow. He's trying to get up the field. He's trying to fly into tackles. and he doesn't hold that position where Casemiro does.
Okay, doesn't have a position. Let's move on to someone that very much does, a defined position, that is, in Antony. Although not quite delivering in said position. One shot in this game with an expected goals of 0.02. One chance created with an expected assist of 0.02. 0 out of 2 crosses completed. And when I stuck out on Twitter that I thought Zinchenko was dominating, I thought that Gabriel was just dealing with him with consummate ease, you know, people weren't happy. And they were telling me, listen, he's been great at retaining possession, good for ball circulation, but only 3 passes into the final third. Only 11 of the 30 passes he attempted went forward. I thought he was just made a peripheral figure in this game very easily. How is it for you as a United fan watching his 70? I
didn't think he was terrible first half. I kind of agree with some of the things that people were saying on Twitter first half. I think his issue is physicality right now in the Premier League, and let's not be writing Antony off straight away. You know, he's 22 and he's been here 6 months, and it's been split with the World Cup as well. I think it's going to take him a while to get up to speed with the Premier League physically. My issue is the one-footedness. It's very, very one-dimensional, and if you are that one-dimensional, you have to be super physical to be able to get that yard of room away. You think back to the days of Iron Robben when he could get those left-footed shots off with such power because he was so physical, just 1 inch or 1 yard and you're in all sorts of trouble against him. I don't quite see that yet from Antony, but like I said, he is still only 22. I think Jadon Sancho is going to have a big role to play across the second half of the season. You're going to have to hope, really, Manchester United fans, in my opinion, that Ten Hag can get some sort of Aaron Wan-Bissaka style remontada out of Jadon Sancho where he can offer on that right hand side, because United have got a game every 3 days for the next month and a half. So there's a lot of pressure, and at the moment Antony isn't delivering.
Yeah, some sympathy with Antony when it comes to his predictability, because he's not got someone,
a right foot,
a right foot and a right back who will willingly overlap. Right,
well, usually
Aaron Wan-Bissaka,
injured.
Diogo Dalot, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, talking in this fixture, was very much, aware of Martinelli at all times, and that was preventing him from getting deep into Manchester United's half. So yeah, Gabriel just ushering him inside and dealing with him easily, like we said. And part of the reason maybe he didn't have a great game is because he didn't really have a great focal point. And I don't want to dig out Weghorst, but not the sort of profile of player who is going to make Manchester United competitive or super competitive in this fixture, with him occupying that 9 space. He gave it his utmost. He dropped into decent effect, but 0 shots, 0 chances created, 0 tackles won, 1 out of 4 aerial duels won, which is kind of why he's there. 3 out of 11 ground duels won. I can't fault the application, like I said, and not expecting him to rip up trees, but again, just sounded out how short United are in those areas.
Yeah.
This isn't a signing that's going to...
I mean, the guy's been there 6 days. He's only had 3 training sessions. I think we've got to give him a bit of slack.
Sure, in fixtures like this, because we're talking very much against Arsenal right now. Yeah, against sitting defences where you can have the time and space to bombard the box with crosses, I think he'll prove much more effective. But against quick, physical, slick teams, the game did seem to slip.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's only had 3 training sessions, and it is the best team in the league, the best defensive unit in the league. I think to ask a lot from Weghorst in this game, I mean, we can say he didn't create chances. I didn't see once Antony put the ball into the box to deliver a headed chance for him. I don't remember the ball ever beating the first man from across from United yesterday, which was a bit of a problem. But for me, these aren't the games where Weghorst is going to have an impact. He's a loanee from Burnley. The guy's got to contribute 5+ goals across the course of the season. And if those goals come against Notts Forest in the League Cup, absolutely fine. I don't think I was expecting Weghorst to have impacts on games against Arsenal away, let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the context of this game, not the sort of player that's going to help you with these potentially season-defining games in these really tight moments, but might batter down the door against lesser sides. Let's hope so. Certainly not going to hold that performance against him. Moving on then, Joseph. I think, like you said, worth flagging the performance of Lisandro Martinez.
Oh, this guy, man.
Because he was fantastic in this game. Do you want to...
Yeah, I mean, 5 tackles, interceptions, wasn't it? 6 passes into the final third, which probably was a Man United team high, maybe, or at least close to it. 7 ball recoveries. But his all-round game is just so aggressive. You know, when Ødegaard does that beautiful little flip-flap pass, you know Martinez is taking everything there to win that ball. And that is what I love about him. He's just a warrior. And I think that spirit is so infectious. Suddenly everybody starts being like that and feeling like that, and it's something I haven't seen from a Manchester United defender in an awful long time.
Yeah.
So it's just so nice to have him back to his best. Obviously playing with that nasty cut that he got off Mateta, but I think him and Varane have formed a really nice partnership. They work really well because Varane, he almost aesthetically looks a bit clumsy on the ball at times, doesn't he? But Martinez is the total opposite. Martinez just looks really press resistant. Looks like he's constantly got time on the ball.
Isn't he, Varane?
Yeah, exactly.
Gallops.
Yeah, he is. But when Martinez is pressing, he does a little shimmy away, and then he can pass it into midfield. I think it's almost an over-reliance sometimes because of De Gea's lack of distribution on Martinez distributing from deep. De Gea has to pass to him a lot to hope we can progress up the field. So I think that's something they'll look to address in the summer. But yeah, hats off to Martinez. I know he's on the losing side, but he didn't deserve to be.
Yeah, and he had to complete an awful lot of ambitious passes, let's say. I think he completed 7 long balls in this game, but attempted something like 14. And that was pretty indicative of the fact that, if Luke Shaw wasn't available, he didn't want to pass it to McTominay in midfield. Aaron Wan-Bissaka obviously doesn't like receiving passes like that in situations where he's going to be pressed instantly. So it was left to Martinez to kind of break that first line, and 50% of the time he did it, which put United on their way. I think that's probably it. We've offered United fans a silver lining there, Alessandro Martinez, but otherwise I think firmly outplayed.
Yeah, better team Arsenal were, but I think United didn't embarrass themselves, and now is a big week. Two big cup semi-finals.
And like you said, it does. You do feel like you've made sizable progress, and that in 18 months' time, you can definitely be competitive with sides of this calibre. What do you lot think of Manchester United's performance? Let us know at home. And where will they finish in the league this season? Predictions below. Subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and we'll catch you very shortly, actually, because we're going to provide you with a bonus clip on Winners and Losers. Breaking news coming your way. Not from us, but just in general.